Let's talk about the books that I read during the month of August. So hello my fellow fantasy book lovers and welcome back to my channel, or if you're new here, hi and welcome. My name is Kathy, I'm a goth girl from Belgium who loves to read fantasy books. In today's video I'm going to talk about the 5 books that I read and one I actually listened to during the month of August. And during the month of August I was at festivals most weekends or at events, hence why I didn't really feel like I read that much. However, let's get into the 5 books that I did manage to get to. First things first, let's talk about a book that I wish I had read sooner. It is Slaying the Vampire Conqueror by Carissa Broadbent. This was a 5-star read for me. I absolutely loved it. The female main character of this book is actually a witch/assassin with lots of powers, and at the start of the book she's actually on a mission together with her peers for an assassination, and a wave arrives onto the island and they feel the presence of something on the island, and she actually goes there and she tries to assassinate this vampire conqueror. However, she's called back by her superiors to not do it, to not engage, to retreat to their safe haven where they are. And we get to know more about how she got into the order, how she became an Arachessen, I believe it's called, and how she got to her powers the way they are now. Now on the other side, we of course have this vampire conqueror who is trying to conquer the place where they live and all of the cities there. So Selena, the female main character, actually gets tasked by her order, by the mother, to go and infiltrate the ranks of this vampire conqueror, gain his trust, and then kill him. So that is what we follow along in this book. The world building and the types of vampires actually come from the same realm as the other Carissa Broadbent books. So we have Slaying the Vampire Conqueror, and then we of course also have the Crowns of Nyaxia duology, which is Serpent and the Wings of Night and Ashes and the Star-Cursed King. And then of course there is the novella that goes in between them, which is called Six Scorched Roses. So we follow the same world, the same realms, it's just a different part from it. I absolutely loved this book. This is a 5-star read for me. It took me a little bit longer to actually read it because I couldn't find an EPUB version of it. I could not find online anywhere that I could order a digital version of this book to read off of my e-reader, because that definitely would have made my life a lot easier. So now I actually read the physical hardcover book, which is something that I personally do not... Well, I do enjoy it, but it means I read a lot slower because I often read in bed in the evening, and with my e-reader I can keep on reading, whereas with a physical book my light is on, my partner stays awake and he doesn't really like it that much. So yeah, I took a long time reading this book in my opinion, but it was really worth it. And this has your enemies to lovers trope, and it of course has some romance, and near the end of the book there is also some like explicit content in it, just to be clear about it. Now, together with Slaying the Vampire Conqueror, I actually also wanted to read something off of my e-reader. So I got started on a guilty pleasure series that has been recommended to me a few times, not because it has great writing style, but because it's a fun read apparently, and this is the Zodiac Academy. So I started with book 1, Awakening. We follow these 2 girls, they are twins, and something has happened in their past that got both of their parents killed, an accident, and due to that accident they both ended up in foster care. And at the start of the book they're actually just turning 18, just got released from this foster care, or rather kicked out of the family or person that was keeping them, and they're trying to make a life for themselves. Now these girls have not been raised in ideal situations, and one of the twins is actually actively stealing and selling bikes, motorbikes, to get money to be able to live. Now she does her usual routine of stealing a bike, trying to sell it, and then coming home, and someone is following them, and that person actually tells them like, hey, you are the long lost heirs of this Fey realm where you actually belong, and he takes them with him to said realm after a lot of discussion. But that is the start point of the book, and they are apparently the heirs to the throne of this kingdom that they know nothing about. They are apparently super powerful, but they don't know how to use their powers or what their powers are. So they are actually sent to the Zodiac Academy, where they are separated and divided into classes with the elements. So there's 4 elements, of course. And they are trying to find out what type of creature they are. So there's werewolves, there's water nymphs, there's a lot of things, there's vampires. And you will encounter those types of creatures throughout the story as they're trying to figure out what they are and what their powers are. Now, this is very much a YA series. Again, it isn't the best writing ever. So I gave this a 3 stars because I know it's not the best book ever, and it wasn't for me the most enjoyable read ever because I don't like school systems, I don't like bullying, and it is very present in this book. I'm curious to see how it evolves. I think I will read some of the next books whenever I feel like it. Those are available on my Kobo, fortunately, and they were quite cheap as well. I think I paid €2 for the book. So that is something that I'm really happy about. And if you're looking into like a fun in-between read that is like romance but not really, and like coming of age is a little bit what I feel in it as well. It feels like if you mixed Gossip Girl with Charmed with Wednesday. That's kind of what I feel this series is like, and I will of course keep reading it. I think there's like 10 to 15 books in it, and it is completed or is soon to be completed. So we'll see how long I last and if I want to keep reading it or not. It was okay. It wasn't the best read ever, but it was fun nonetheless. Then of course I read Stake Around and Find Out by Evie Belknap. I already have a video out about this book, but in short, we follow Ava, who is a human woman who wants to become a vampire desperately. She hasn't in her life been able to find a vampire to turn her, so the next best thing she thinks of is joining a group of vampire hunters. In this group of vampire hunters, you have a very powerful one, like the best of the best, who is called Helsing, and of course they bond, or she tries to find information through Helsing about vampires, and on one of their quests they actually encounter vampires, but in a different way than she probably expected. In this book, there is so much humor. There are so many hints, and not just to popular culture, and also references to how vampires are portrayed most of the time and then what the reality is. We also follow a little bit from the vampire side, and that they're actually like not really understanding why they're being hunted, because there is a pact between humans and vampires that the humans don't hunt vampires anymore, and in exchange, vampires don't turn humans into vampires, which of course is an issue for Ava. I absolutely loved this book. It is filled with humor. It has a little bit of sprinkle of like romance, but not like romance, like family bond romance and then new relationships forming. There is a little bit of like kissing and hints to more, but it's not explicit in any way, shape or form. If you're looking for a fun time with a book, I would highly recommend Stake Around and Find Out by Evie Belknap. It is available starting September 3rd. So if you want it, get your hands on it. You will not regret it. And then the final book that I physically read is the Book of Ezrael. In this book, we have two main characters. One is Diana. She is this Ikmoruten, I think it's pronounced. I will put it on screen here. She's a very deadly creature, and she was actually human, but she got turned by Caden, this powerful evil overlord type. I don't know at this point of finishing book 1 what he exactly is, but he's like very evil, very powerful. So he turned her into this creature that is very deadly. She can transform as well into this like dragon-shaped creature. So Diana is like an evil, badass creature is what she is portrayed as at the beginning of the book. However, throughout the book, we discover very soon that she actually has been turned to save her sister from dying. So something bad happened in her past. She doesn't have her parents anymore, and she wants to desperately cling on to her sister, who is like the good in life for her. And she sacrifices her own life to turn into this creature to save her sister. And in this world building, there is actually different planes or different types of realms connected to each other, but they have been locked down at the end of the God War, and this has been done by the World Ender. Now, this World Ender comes into play rather soon into the book because something is happening with the realms, and creatures are somehow coming from other realms into the realm that we are in, which shouldn't be possible. So Liam is the name of the second main character, the male main character of this book, is this all-powerful god creature world ender. And at the beginning of the book, we already know that Caden is looking for this Book of Ezrael to open the realms to, we don't know what exactly do with it. We just know that it's like the main quest that she is on is finding this book for him. And of course, doing all of his evil tasks like killing vampires and stuff. So in this book, there is a lot of creatures involved. You have vampires, witches, dragons, other shadow creatures. There is a lot in it. And then we also have celestials and gods on the other side, of course, to balance things out. Now, Deanna knows that Caden is actually just keeping her under his thumb to do his evil bidding, but she doesn't want to anymore. And when she encounters this god Liam, she actually betrays Caden and becomes an ally with Liam to help them find the Book of Ezrael first and figure out what is actually going on. So that is the basic setup of this book. Now, I did have some issues with it. The basic premises sounds really nice. The overall line of the book was really nice, but it took me almost 2 weeks to finish it because the writing was done poorly, in my opinion. A lot of repetition of words in the same sentence. Sentences that weren't really all that well written, like constructions that I was like, huh? How? Why? And it just felt like an unfinished draft. So it felt like I was reading an arc at some points. There were also some unnecessary details that we really didn't need. Like at one point they have been like traveling for a while, searching these items. And we get to a scene where she's like in this palace type situation. And one of the starts of the chapter is like, she gets a razor and she's able to shave her armpits and down there. Like, was that really necessary? Like, I don't feel like it added any value at all to the book to have included that. Some of the things that I thought were too easy ended up being traps, which is something that I expected. So it wasn't the best book ever. It's also not terrible. Like, I did enjoy the overall line of the book. The smut near the end of the book, because this is clearly enemies to lovers, was good. I don't know if the book is completed on its own. I know there's a book 2 and you will definitely need to read book 2 to get like to the conclusion or some sort of endpoint where you feel satisfied. That's the main thing that I have with this book. It felt meh. It felt a little bit like a waste of time, but I was so involved in wanting to read this because I have this beautiful special edition that I just stuck through with it. So yeah, not my favorite read, not the worst either. I might pick up book 2 to just see how it ends, but I felt like this book still had some work needed to it to actually make it really good, and then it would have held up better. So maybe if the author sees this feedback, makes a revised version at some point, that would be amazing. But yeah, I enjoyed it, but it wasn't the best book either. And then the final book that I actually listened to, didn't read, I just finished in September. Now, I updated it on the wrong day, so on Goodreads it has the wrong date, but it is the Dragons of Fate. This is the second book in the Dragons of the Seed series by Weis and Hickman. It's actually a trilogy. The third book only recently released. We actually listened to this. So the first book we actually listened to on our trip to Wave Gothic Treffen in May. The second book we started listening to on our trip to the Mera Luna Festival in August. And then we recently had another place where we were going in Belgium, which was about an hour drive each way. So we continued listening to the book. Now, if you don't know anything about the Dragonlance series, it's actually very D&D based books. So the writing feels very much like you're actually playing a D&D campaign, which makes it so much fun. In these books, we follow Destina. She's the female main character and the general lead and red thread throughout these books. In the first book, we see her as her world is falling apart. Her father passed away. They lost their castle, their inheritance, etc. And she's trying to find a solution to save her father. She goes to this powerful mage who tells her she needs to find the Grey Gem and the device of time traveling. She finds both of them. She travels back in time, not going to the place where she needed to be, and then traveling to somewhere completely different even. So this actually sends ripples through time, and that is what we are faced with in book 2. So in book 2, it continues on this story. We actually follow a little bit of the legend of Huma, which is another trilogy by the same authors. It's a really fun book. If you like D&D, if you like the epic high fantasy, then I think this is really up your alley. I think I gave this a 4 stars because I was left wanting more at the end of the book. I probably will give the entire series once it's completed, and if it's like a nice conclusion, 5 stars. But I felt like this book, because it's the in-between book, it has a little bit of middle book syndrome. I feel this happens with a lot of series, and I was just left at the end like, oh no, what's gonna happen next? I want to know the next book. I want to already have it. So I'm very happy that we don't have to wait a long time because book 3 is already out. So I'm very much looking forward to the next trip that we do, where we have a long time in the car so that we can actually start listening to it. So these were the 5 books that I read or listened to during the month of August. If you have read any of these and you enjoyed it as well, or you have a totally different opinion than mine, feel free to let me know in a comment down below. And of course, if you have read a book that you really want to share with me during the month of August, feel free to do so in the comment section as well. Of course, if you enjoyed this video, feel free to give it a big thumbs up. And of course, if you haven't already but you'd like to be, feel free to subscribe to my channel. I make new videos every week and I would love to have you here for every single one of them. Thank you again so much for watching, and I will see you very soon with a new video. Bye!